Could eliminating high denomination banknotes cut crime? Peter Sands, former CEO of Standard Chartered, believes so, and he joins me down the line now. Peter, why large banknotes? How are they being used criminally? Give me examples.
Criminals like large banknotes because they have all the advantages of cash with the minimum of the drawbacks. The advantages of cash are that the payor, the payee are both anonymous, there's no transaction record, it's accepted everywhere. The drawback of cash is that in large amounts, it can be heavy and bulky. With a high denomination note, you get all those advantages, and because they're high denominations, you get the minimum disadvantage.
During your tenure at Standard Chartered, did you see any of this, and what was in place to ensure large denominations were not part of money laundering or crime?
All banks have controls on depositing of large amounts of high denomination notes or the conversion of lower denomination notes on a regular or frequent basis into high denomination notes. Those are the kind of things that trigger suspicious activity reports. But the point here is that most of these high denomination notes that are being used in drug trafficking, human trafficking, terrorist finance, corruption, never hit the banking system.
So if we eliminated the €500 note and the $100, for example, who would legitimately suffer? Surely they exist for a reason.
Actually, a very small percentage of people, like less than 2% of people, ever have one in their pockets. Most people in Europe have never had a €500 note, and they account for a tiny fraction of 1% of all transactions. Where they are used intensively is in the underground economy. It seems to me that there is a strong argument to stop printing these notes and withdraw them from the system.
Now, other countries have done this, such as Singapore and Canada, but there are countries such as Germany who are against this suggestion. Why?
There's an argument about seigniorage, which is the interest income that central banks make on the cash outstanding in the economy. But actually, that's a very small number and easily offset by the benefits from tax gains you could make from better collection of, say, VAT and so on, from people not evading tax using high denomination notes.
We actually did a poll on World Finance to see what viewers thought, many of whom are industry leaders, those from a business background. Now, 39% said no, 39% said yes, we should get rid of big banknotes, and 22% said they were going to go away soon anyway because everything's going digital. But why do you think there is this resistance to it then?
I think people are very conservative when it comes to things about money. People are reluctant to have changes, but people forget that actually we have got rid of these notes in the past. It isn't just Singapore and Canada, but the US used to have higher denomination notes, the UK used to have higher denomination notes. And remember, we got rid of bearer bonds, corporate bonds that weren't tracked on exchanges and so on. And we got rid of bearer bonds for precisely this reason, that they were being used for money laundering and tax evasion.
Of course, uncertainty in markets and concerns of bear territory trigger cash hoarding. And that's exactly the situation we're in now. So surely trust on banks needs to be worked on before we could perhaps think about this measure?
Well, obviously, having good regulation of banks, good deposit insurance and things are very important things. But frankly, hoarding this sort of stuff is not an alternative to having a good and resilient banking system. And anyway, most of the hoarding that is being done is not being done by most people on the street. The hoarding of these notes is being done largely by people who've got hold of them through illegal means.
You also say that getting rid of large denominations would prevent tax evasion. How so?
The European VAT gap is about €190 billion. A lot of that is cash-based VAT evasion, and at the high stakes end of it, it tends to be done with high denomination notes. There's obviously a lot of it that's also happening in very small amounts that doesn't need high denomination notes.
Well, finally, Peter, the use of hard currency is diminishing anyway. It's all going digital, so surely criminals are one step ahead and we should be more focusing on cybersecurity.
For all the noise about digital currencies, Bitcoin and the like, the reality is high denomination notes are more attractive to criminals than any of these things. Bitcoin may give anonymity, but it does leave a perfect transaction record. And also it isn't anything like as universally acceptable as, say, a $100 bill. So the preferred currency for criminals for making payments is still a high denomination note in a major currency.